Welcome to this video about Mars in Gemini retrograde. So let's delve into this subject in general. What is the Mars in Gemini and the retrograde all about? And then let's break it down into the 12 signs so that each sign knows what to look for and what the potential is for some action and some growth for sure. Now, of course, you can check out the monthly horoscopes as well if you want to know this in a little bit more of a context. But let's delve into this. First, the facts, the boring stuff. Let's get to the boring stuff and then jump into the meaning and the interpretation. But first, the facts and figures. Mars is already, as I speak now today, it's the 22nd of August. It's already in Gemini, in the sign of Gemini. Now, Mars is the planet of action, it's the planet of drive, it's the planet of I have an intention and I'm gonna do it. It's our ego, you could say, and of course, without an ego on planet Earth, what are you doing here? Okay, so it's definitely a planet of energy and of getting energized, and we want to do that in the most healthy way, of course, so that we don't overpower others and that others are not overpowering us, that we have a healthy, assertive Mars. We say what we want and we act upon it. We're not doing it passive aggressively. So we all assume that we know that, how to do that. And but we do our best. And in Gemini is the sign of communication. It's the third house. Gemini is a sign of sales. It's the sign of journalism. It's the sign of our, it's a very social sign, it doesn't go very deep into the conversations, but very broad, I'm going to talk with the neighbor and then with a sibling and so on and so on. So it's very talkative. It loves to talk. It's a bit scattered energy. It's like, I start my day with cleaning up a little bit, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do something else, and that. Mars in Gemini, people with Mars in Gemini know that for sure. When they have that in a natal chart, these are people that are busy bees, and they are very active, and they know a little bit of everything, but not really in depth. That's not good or bad. It is what it is. So we will all feel this energy. This energy of, it's very fun energy, Gemini is a very fun-witted, a very enjoyable sign and very charming as well, it kind of seduces with their words and a man with Mars in Gemini, for instance, will seduce when they like someone and they want to be seen, they will express themselves in a way of, look, I know a bit of everything, and I can talk, and I travel a lot. Travel is also short trips, short travels. People with a strong Gemini nature or a strong third house, they love to travel, they love to do short trips, they love to learn. So it's also the energy of learning. Mars in Gemini is mostly very good with languages as well, because they want to learn that, they want to learn how to communicate. You see, it's an air sign, so it's all very airy energy. It's the house of marketing. I see it as the third house in Gemini as a house of the social media for sure, the house of, enjoying the fact that you can have small talk and a conversation with a neighbor about, the things that are going on, and then off you go back to your ordinary life or not so ordinary life. So it is really a very enjoyable, light energy. Now, mostly Mars is in Gemini every 2 years for like 6 weeks. And now it's going to stay, because of the retrograde, for approximately 7 months in the sign of Gemini. So prepare yourself for that energy that is, for all of us in a particular area of our life, very present. So again, this is not a bad energy or a good energy. It is what it is. And when we accept the energy, we will get the most out of it. So for some of you, this is going to be, when this happens in your 10th house, for instance, of work, this is going to be like a really interesting time to improve your work and to be better, to become better at work, and especially when it comes to communication. But first of all, so we know that it's a light-hearted energy. We know that Mars is already in Gemini, and it's going to stay there up until like approximately the 26th of March of next year. So that's the pocket of time that we have to express that Mars in Gemini. It will go direct. So first it goes direct in Gemini up until 25 degrees of Gemini. So this is important, 25 degrees. And it will go retrograde at 25 degrees of Gemini on around and about, you could say, the 30th, 31st of October. So that at 25 degrees it stops and it goes backwards, 24 degrees, 23 degrees, and so on. Then it stops again at 8 degrees of Gemini, around and about the 12th to 13th of January of next year, and it goes direct again. And then it's out, we call it in astrology, out of its shadow period, when it is after those 25 degrees of Gemini, where it was in the first place, and that is around the 17th of March. So these are the important energies of, look, it goes forward. So we already start, you could say, with the energy of exploring and doing new things that are related to Mars and Gemini. Then the energy goes backwards, which means it's a reassessing. It's not a bad thing at all. I'll explain in a minute by an example. We are reassessing, we are redoing, we are, you could say, fine-tuning and improving what we already started from now, you could say. And then at the midst of January, off we go. Then it's full force, definitely after the 17th of March, when it's out of its shadow. But then it's full force with, you could say, the new plans. Now, let's talk about the Mars retrograde. I love Mars retrograde, in particular when they are in your sign. Or in, this is in the mutable sign, which is Gemini is a mutable sign. So if it is in Gemini and you have planets there, it's super important for you. When you have the opposite sign, Sagittarius, it's also very important for you. Also the squares. So the other mutable signs like Virgo and Pisces will also very strongly feel this. Now, so all the other signs, it's going to be a bit less important, but of course, we will all feel that energy for 7 months in a particular area of our lives. So it's definitely something that we can look forward to if we want to imply something new into our lives. Let's talk about a retrograde in general. I know that a lot of books and a lot of what they write about a Mars retrograde, it's a bad thing, and when it goes backwards and everything that you started before, you have to, it's not good, and blah, blah, blah. I find it one of the most interesting times when there is a Mars retrograde, if you apply it right, and again, if you accept the energy, as with everything, as with the Saturn transit, as with the Pluto transit, if you accept it, if you accept that energy, it becomes way more easy. And what is the meaning? The meaning, the interpretation, the astrological meaning of a Mars retrograde. It means that we are all ready to start something new in our life. Absolutely. Mars is about new start, new beginnings. It's the sign that is associated with Aries. And a Mars is about a new plan, a new goal, a new relationship, whatever it is. We'll get back to that in a minute if we go through each and every sign. But it's not just a start. It's a very important start, one that takes time, because we've got like 7 months to accomplish something. So that means that the new start that we have in our lives has to be done in a very conscious way, in a slow way, but if you do things slow, often you put more consciousness on it, and the rewards is also like multiplied by 10, because you did a lot of effort and you did a lot of conscious energy towards that goal. That's why when after the retrograde is done and Mars goes direct again, we see the accomplishments of our former actions. I'll give you an example of a Mars retrograde of my own life. And of course, this is going to be very important when you have planets around, you know, as I said, in Gemini, for instance, or in Sagittarius, or in Virgo and Pisces. Because when the Mars goes retrograde bang on a personal planet or an important axe in your life, which is like the ascendant or the midheaven for sure, or even the descendant and your IC, it's going to have a really strong energy there to change something. I'll give you an example of how important Mars retrogrades can be. If you apply them right, it changes your life. And in a good way, in a fresh, you know, Mars is a very fresh energy. It wants something new. When I started the astrology, or to apply astrology in my life, I was doing something completely different. I was working in the corporate world, you could say, and I had that dream, you know, of doing my hobby. It was my passion, and when Mars went into my sign, it was in Virgo. Mars into Virgo, and it was also staying there like for a ridiculous amount of time, like 7-8 months. That period when Mars went in my sign, I started to do astrology, and I did it with writing. So there was a person who had a website, someone that I knew who she had a website, and she said, you know what, you write your horoscopes. And so for the first time in my life, I was applying, Mars is a new beginning, a new start, something bold, really. I was really having the courage. I was excited. It was something new. So that is all Mars. Mars is something new and so on. And a new action. So I was doing the astrology for the first time in my life. It was amazing. I was writing the horoscope. I was getting a little bit of money, you know, and I was doing my passion. Then when so that was when Mars went forward. Now, what happened when Mars went retrograde in that same sign? I said to myself, when it went retrograde, is this it? You know, I started not regretting it, but I was saying like, is this what I want to do? So I started to reassess. Okay, the astrology, I like that I'm doing astrology. It's a passion of mine, but do I like writing? I don't. I don't like the writing, actually. You see, so the reassessment was not like, and that's when a lot of people panic. You know, they start something, and then at the retrograde, they say, oh, it's not good. I don't have the results that I want. You know, I was certainly not having the results that I wanted. I couldn't live from it, you know, just by writing the horoscopes. And it was also not really that fulfilling. But of course, if you don't do it, you don't know it. But the energy of delving into the astrology and applying that and working with it, I love that very much. So during the period of the retrograde, I was reassessing that, okay, I don't want to write anymore. That's not something that I feel passionate about. But I still want to do astrology. So how am I going to do it? And then because of circumstances and during that whole retrograde, I was thinking of how I'm going to do this. And then when Mars went direct again, I started a YouTube channel. And then off I went, right? So that was in a way that I really enjoyed it. And that is the story of a Mars retrograde. So it changed my life. I'm not working, obviously, in the corporate world anymore. I'm doing something that I love. And I did it myself by my own actions, really. You know, Mars is, I desire something. Mars is desire. I desire something. But you also have to take actions. So you see, I want to give you that example because a lot of people think a Mars retrograde is blah. It isn't. It isn't. When I look back to this period of like 7-8 months, wow, it was like a big thing for me. And in retrospective, when I look upon that energy, it was marvelous, you know. It was being bold, doing something new, doing something that I'm a bit afraid of, actually. And is this gonna work? But then having the possibility, the energy of reassessing and reinventing what I was already started. And then, so that is exactly what I invite you to do as well with this energy. Okay, so it's a very important energy where your intention is super important. And why am I saying that? Not only, so first of all, the Mars retrograde is not a bad thing. You have to apply it with the energies. If you do that, you can get a lot out of it. That's basically my statement here. Another thing is, and particularly for this Mars retrograde, when it's going to aspect an outer planet, which is like Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, to a lesser extent, well, not to a lesser extent, also Saturn. I include Saturn as well. It's, of course, the outer planet is more Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but Saturn is also important. If you've got like an aspect that is going to be formed during that retrograde with one of those planets that I just said, it's going to be very important. That planet is going to play also a big role. And we've got two of them. I said Saturn, but Saturn is actually going to bump into Mars 2 times in a beautiful trine. So we all have, you could say, Saturn is in Aquarius, and that forms a very nice angle, a trine, which is positive energy with that Gemini energy. So it means that on around and about the 29th of September and around and about the 29th of November at 19 degrees of Gemini, Saturn is going to trine it, which is lovely, which is absolutely fantastic, because that means that whatever it is that we start, whether it is during the retrograde period or which is in November time, and also just before the retrograde period, which is the 29th of September, we are going to feel that discipline and that consistency with the new actions that we want to take. So that is, having a trine with a Mars retrograde is beautiful. So we have that already, you could say, reflecting. This is a very helpful energy. So a lot of us will not only start something just for the sake of the starting something, they will also have the stamina to keep on going. And that is important. There is a challenging aspect as well, and that is 3 times that Mars is going to bump into that planet, and it is Neptune. So Mars is going to square 3 times with Neptune. Again, it's a square, that means a challenge. It's not easy, but it's not a bad thing. It's always Neptune. So I'll explain what it means. But first, the dates. So around that, we have to be very aware of the energy that I'm going to explain in a minute. Is around the 12th of October. Mars squares up to Neptune at 23 degrees. Then around the 20th of November, 22 degrees, Mars again squaring Neptune. And then at 24 degrees in Gemini, Mars will again square Neptune at around the 12th of March. So also actually 3 times that Mars crosses Neptune and bumps into Neptune. So what does it mean? First of all, Mars is our actions, it's our intentions as well. When Neptune comes along, we want the intention to be as pure as possible. That's it. That's it. If we are having a clear agenda, so not a hidden agenda, but a clear intentions, if we're not doing things passive aggressively, so if we're not saying one thing and meaning another thing, if we go with the flow a little bit, you know, we go with the energies, we go with the flow. If it's raining outside, we're staying inside. If the sun is shining, we go outside. to have a walk, have a nice walk in the park or whatever. So if we kind of try to feel the energy and acting accordingly, and we have the best intention. So I mean with the best intention that it's pure and that it's coming from a lovely place and not from an anxious place and controlling place, a place of trying to seduce or whatever. You know, Mars square Neptune is very seductive. You know, I seduce you because not because I like you, but because I want something from you. You know, that kind of energy. That is very tricky, that energy. Whether you are doing it or whether someone else is doing it. But now you are warned. You're going to see these energies. So if you're seeing them, it's already a 50% of the solution, because then you can turn it around. So Mars square Neptune also shows that we will have, especially our own actions, because other people's actions, if other people are doing sneaky, are doing manipulative, are saying yes and they mean no, I mean, we cannot control that. But we can say, hey, I'm distancing myself from that, right? Instead of saying, oh yes, I'm open and go ahead. So that's the difference. When it's about our own actions, the only thing we can do is just what I said, right? Making sure that you have a lot of integrity with the actions. You want to build something, you want to grow something, fantastic. And you're doing it from a place of love, and you're doing it because it's very much you. So you're doing that to intrinsically validating and not to trying to manipulate other people and so on. This is going to change your life, you know. This can happen for you. Of course, again, it's in your chart on a personal way that you have to look at a personal chart. But this is very interesting energy. I really, really like this Mars retrograde. But again, we have to be careful with that Mars square Neptune. So let's have a look. So that's it. That's it. A tremendous, interesting energy that is coming our way. And let's have a look at the signs. To start with Aries. So where is this happening? And where do we have to watch out for with that Neptune? So for Aries people, this is in your 3rd house. I really, really like that for you, Aries people, because Aries and Gemini go very well with each other. It is a sextile, it is supportive energy, and it's in your 3rd house. You want to use the positive way, of course, of Mars in the 3rd house. You want to be aware of the negatives and the pitfalls. The pitfall of the 3rd house, watch your tongue, really, and especially because it squares up to Neptune in the 12th house. If you, on an unconscious level, you could, so dig into your unconscious, what is playing out, because that's going to help you in how you communicate. So your communication may be very lively, absolutely, as long as you're not doing it with the bad intention to harm others and blah, blah, blah. If you're doing it in that way and you're minding that Neptune, what I just explained in the beginning, you will be fine, and you have an opportunity to be very active on a positive way in that 3rd house, right? So instead of arguing with neighbors and siblings, you can really be very, very lively in your neighborhood. You can be very lively in doing something with a sibling that is very stimulating for you. Or doing something in your environment, like doing workshops or being very active there, or you yourself learning something new. This could be something that you, like the 7-month period that you're going to for school or a workshop or some course that you're going to take. Could be that. Are you trying to teach as well, and it takes a little bit of time of figuring out what you're going to teach. It is a fantastic energy when you have your own business and you want to give your own business a boost. If you are a YouTuber like me, for instance, this would be lovely to reinvent yourself, to take some new steps, but then reassessing them right? A new website, or changing your website, or going for, if you have a YouTube channel, maybe going for another channel, maybe a Facebook, or whatever it is, you know, or TikTok, or whatever, or the other way around. Maybe you are a TikToker and starting to do YouTube videos. So everything that has to do with commerce is very third house, and doing lots of actions there. And it's in Gemini, so it's a lot with the mind, of course, and with the communication. So if you are not having your own business, this can mean that you will put a lot of energy in doing short trips, for instance, or wanting to do short trips, and wanting to be, you know, around and about all of the time. That's also very much Mars in the third house, and using that in a very you want to use all this energy in the most positive way. Of course, it's easy if you want to fight and quarrel and just be very, you know, your words can be very cutting, because Mars is you, and in the third house, so you can really damage other people. But, you know, it's gonna backfire, because this Mars is so long there in that third house, and with the square to Neptune. Again, what goes around comes around. This is very, very common in this case. But so all in all, it's not really the most important Mars retrograde for you, but it's definitely something where you can get a lot of more knowledge, get a lot of more study, or you going after a new job where you can sell yourself way better, and be a bit competitive there, but in a healthy way. You know, you just want to, you use the competitive energy to improve yourself. Not to say, oh, I'm jealous of you and blah, blah, blah. That's the square to Neptune. It's that sneakiness that you don't want to invite in your life. You want to invite the healthy Mars, the assertive Mars. And so you can make a lot of changes in the way that you communicate, and standing a bit more up for yourself when you communicate. But again, making sure that it comes from the right place, and you'll be fine. Taurians, the second house. This is for you as well. This Mars in Gemini, it's not like the biggest breakthrough for the sign of Taurus, but it's definitely, it can be a very lucrative energy in your second house when it comes to money. So the second house is like two big things. It's money, or your assets, or your resources. And on the other hand, it's your self-worth. So it's actually your house. The second house is the house of the Taurian. You have a tremendous, if your finances are not so good, if you, like if you're having a job and it's not really fulfilling, for instance, or just in general, when your financial status is not the best, this can really change it and improve it multiplied by 10. If you work on it yourself, Mars in the second demands hustling for the money. So you taking actions to improve your financial situation. And because you are going to start that, the problem can look as if it grows, especially between now and the end of October. It's like, you know, when we start, we haven't cleaned the room for a long time, and we start cleaning. It's like, of course, you're doing in the beginning a lot of good. You're cleaning, but it seems like, oh my goodness, the more I clean, the more I see that I need to clean. It's that kind of energy that in the beginning you will feel if you take some actions, that nothing is going forwards, but it's just, you have to stick to, keep on doing that. And Saturn there in a trine to it will help you for sure with that. And but it definitely means that it's a good timing for you to restore, reassess your financial situation, and to take actions to improve it. And that is going to do a lot of good for your self-worth as well. So if you're saying, Viola, I have a lot of money, I'm doing well on that kind of level, we can always work towards self-worth and self-growth, and the second house is definitely something like that. On a more physical level, the second house is also the teeth. So you could be restoring, and with Mars there, it could also mean like you are doing like a long work, like crowns and whatnot, or implants or something like that. Could be that as well, for some of you. But for a lot of you, this is about confidence. This is about how, so for you Taurians who feel like I'm not having enough confidence, I'm low at my confidence because of whatever happened in the past, there is an opportunity for you to build that up. And you are definitely going to see the results at the midst of January next year. But you can already start with applying new things that are going to improve your confidence, right? And Google it. Google, how can I increase my confidence? You know, it's really being active. It's not like sitting down and, what can I do and think about it. No, it's by doing it. And so really interesting, because this is you have Uranus, of course, in your sign, you Taurians. So you want to free yourself up. And I think this 7-month transit of Mars is like, how can you liberate yourself and be more free in your life? It's definitely by financial freedom, and it's definitely also by your worth and knowing your worth. And if it's low, well, then you improve it. It's also what you eat, the second house. With Mars there, you could be really actively changing what you eat, really. Maybe a little bit more spicy food. Why not? You know, Mars, a hot planet in your second house. Anyway, this all squares up to your 11th house. So where do you need to take care of that your intention as well? It's your goal setting. So when you are setting your goals, make sure that they come from a place of love, a place of integrity, that you don't want to seduce or manipulate and blah, blah, blah. So all of that. Also, it's the house of groups, and it's the house of friends, it's the house of like-minded people, it's the house of associations, it's also the house of, you know, you have a goal setting there, you have a plan, and you want to work on that in the future. So these are all the things that you have to consider and be very aware of. Like, let's say you have a friend that wants to help you with your financial situation. I don't know if that's the best idea. You see what I mean? You know, Neptune there, they might not do it on purpose, but they might not be the best people to consult, right? Neptune in the 11th house is that friends can be a little bit artistic or dreaming or compassionate, for sure. So if you're using that energy in that way and expressing it yourself, this is positive. But if you're trying to do a goal that is not realistic, if you are expecting from your friends not realistic things, it's not the best energy. So don't expect too much on that level. I mean, you can of course have your goals, but be realistic. That's basically it. And you're Taurian, you'll be fine. Gemini, this is of course super important for you, because this is all happening in your sign, especially for the retrograde going on at 25 degrees of Gemini, but also it goes direct again at 8 degrees of Gemini. It's like all Geminis will feel it a lot. And in particular, those who've got those degrees, but all Geminis will feel it. And this is about you. So when it's happening in your sign, it is your life path. It is the first house. So that means it could be like the example that I talked about in the beginning. It could be related to your work and a totally new goal setting that you're having. It could be related to relationship, and also a totally new start that you want, and a totally new way of you acting and behaving in relationships. And this will definitely be like, my needs must be met. You know, it's Mars in your sign. And it's about less compromising here, for sure. And not that you have to say it's my way or the highway, but it's certainly to people when you can't say no, When you are bad at that and not so good at that, this is good energy. This is the energy that you love to see there, because you're going to say, hey, enough is enough. And maybe you are going to say it even a little bit brutally, not, but sneaky here with the Mars square Neptune. So be aware of that. That when you're saying no, that you're saying it as honest as you do and as you can. And that's going to help you. It's going to make it way easier. So, but it's absolute, it's your relationships, it's your home, your work, it's everything that has here an opportunity to change. So what an opportunity for you Geminis to start from scratch and to start all over and to start something new. Again, the Neptunian energy that I was talking about, you know, the sneakiness, and that comes from the area of your work. So there could be some things that are not so, that are a bit vague at work. Don't try to control it. You won't be able to pinpoint that. But do the best you can when it comes to your intentions. I mean, that is really true for you, that when your intentions are pure, when it's coming from a good place, when you do it for growth and you do it because you love to do it, the reward is multiplied by who knows how much. During the midst of January, you will see that happening for you. So wow, that is definitely, you know, I love it. You know, you're gonna have a story there that you're looking back onto it. And again, don't mind when this energy goes backwards at the end of October. Don't think that you're doing the wrong thing or it's not helping, it's not going well. It's a reassessment time, remember, up until the midst of January. Cancerians, this is in your 12th house. So the 12th house is a very hidden house. It's a very unconscious house. But because you are a water sign, you can deal quite well with that, you know. As a water sign, you kind of understand the unconscious and the emotions, because it's an emotional house. But still, it is a bit tricky to have Mars so long in your 12th house. When you are a very rational person, I mean, not very emotional, which is almost impossible, I think, when you are a Cancerian. But anyway, if you're a very business-minded, rational person, this could be very tricky because Mars in the 12th house suggests actually that the energy there for such a long time, Mars wants to battle there. It wants to battle your shadow. It wants to get to know yourself better, what you're not showing towards yourself, basically. If you are already a person that is reflective, that has the Cancerian traits of, look, I know myself and you know, I have those emotions, I know where they're coming from, this can be a very positive transit. If you're willing to look at yourself, if you're willing to look at yourself, if you are open for growth and self-growth, I mean self-improvement, this is a fantastic transit, because when then Mars goes into your sign, which will be around the end of March of next year, boom, you're preparing, you're showing a new you. So I know that a lot of books, they say Mars in the 12th house is very negative. There is, like with everything, a negative side and a challenge and a pitfall for Mars in the 12th house. But what we do forget is everything is positive and negative. So we also can get a lot out of that Mars in the 12th house. And it is knowledge. It is knowledge, but that that only comes when you go through it and when you're open for that. So it depends a bit on your character. If you're saying, yeah, but the patterns, I see patterns, you know, you seem to attract the same old story in your life that is a negative story. You have the opportunity to deal with it now, if you want to look at it, of course. You see, it's shadow work, a lot of shadow work. And if you have, whatever pattern it is, like you always attract a job where you have to do too much, for instance, and you get burnout, or you always attract partners and You invest in them and they don't invest in you. And that's the partner that you attract always. Why is that? You know, this is a time to dig very deep into the unconscious. Where is it coming from? What is this energy that you are exuding that seems to attract these patterns in your life? So there's a lot of this is deep stuff for sure. And a lot of people are afraid of that because they want to avoid the pain. But the thing is, now with this energy, it's better to go through it and to accept it, that energy, because you can battle your you could say your shadow, and putting a light on your shadow, because when you do so, it's not shadow anymore. It's known. And what an opportunity for you, Cancerians, to know yourself. Of course, the sneaky way here, which is Mars in the 12th house, is doing things behind the scenes, literally. I mean, actively, right? Mars in the 12th house on a negative level or a pitfall level is temptations or having strong feelings and having strong desires, but you can't kind of express them. So you suppress them, or you're doing them behind the scenes, right? You could, you know, criminal acts, for instance, is very much Mars in the 12th house, because criminality is often done behind the scenes, right? Also, sex behind the scenes, you know, Mars in the 12th house, doing private stuff behind the scenes. I mean, this is no judgment, by the way. I'm not saying that you are going to do that. I'm just saying the negative sides of it. If you are not aware of it, it's easier to go towards that negative side. But again, you want to have it in the most positive way, which is Mars in the 12th house. If you say, Veerle, I don't want to go into criminal energy here. That's not my thing. I don't want to go into affairs. I mean, that's not my thing either. I don't want to do sneaky stuff behind the scenes. If you apply that energy and you want to apply it in the best way, so you dig deep, you go introspect, you go within, you analyze your dreams, you analyze why the fears, where they're coming from, you analyze your patterns, and you know, once you dig into that, you're gonna understand yourself better, and you are going to make better choices in your life that are easier for you. But on another level as well, Mars in the 12th house is doing things for other people without, I mean, in a very unconditional way. So in a way that you just do it because you love to do it. Like helping out a friend or helping out someone who really is in need. And not doing that because you want to get something back. No, that would be the negative side of Mars square Neptune. You would do something because you want to get something. That's the sneaky stuff. So you just want to do because your heart says so. That you say, hey, you know, a bit like Mars in Pisces. Mars in the 12th house on a positive level is people that, you know, do very positive things for other people in need, but with a good discernment because they truly need it. Not because they're needy and the victim role and so on. So be aware of discerning that as well. So, so that can give you a lot of, you could say, good energy, good karma to fulfill your life in that way. And also in a positive way, exuding that energy and attracting very unconditional love basically in your life. If you want that, it's about exuding it, but being discerning with that square to Neptune. So doing things for, it's a very philanthropic energy. So maybe for, as you know, you're doing things for people who, for example, who are in a shelter and they want to build up their lives and they need some help, and you're helping them out in a way. You know, all these things that are unconditional and you're doing it because you love to do it, not something to get back. That is really going to be good for your soul. It's going to feel so good for you. And on another level, this can mean preparing yourself for something that you want to start around March, the end of March, after when Mars is in your sign. So whatever it is, something that you're doing behind the scenes, so you're not saying anything to someone else, but it's not sneaky. You're doing like a project, a new job, an investment that you want to do, and you're working hard on it behind the scenes. And then around the end of March, boom, you have your new project and your new goal there that you can apply. So it's very good for that. It's very good for the Sherlock Holmes stuff because it's in Gemini. Maybe you are a researcher, or you work in maybe as a police officer, or you know, in the you're kind of wanting to you know, find secrets and explore, and you have to do a lot of work behind the scenes. That's a good energy there. So you can, or when you are artistic, so if you do something very creative, if you have a creative job, this is fantastic energy, because it means that you can use it for a new project, like a new piece of music or a new business that you want to build, and it demands a lot of alone time. This is all, by the way, doing things on your own is also very good energy for that. So you see, it's not all sneaky, Mars in the 12th house. Leo, this is happening in your 11th house, and this is nice energy. It's not the biggest thing for you, but you have Mars there in the 11th house. In Gemini, that goes well with Leo, the fiery energy. So it's what we call a sextile. And the 11th house is your goals and your friends, but it's also a financial house if you have your own business. So let's start with that. It's very interesting if you want to start your own business, because the 11th house is a network house, it's a social house, it's the house of social media as well. It's a you know, in Gemini, a lot about communication. And so if you want to start your business and you have to be very communicative and whatnot, this is a splendid time. So use this energy already now to start this up. And then at the end of October up until the mid of January, you kind of fine tune it, reassess it. If things are not good, you stop it and you implement something else then around the midst of January. And so very good for startup, for our businesses, also very good to improve everything that has to do with your with groups that you do with groups of people, like, but you being the initiator, because that's the positive side of Mars in the 11th house. Yes, you could say Mars in the 11th house, it's quarreling with friends, but that's in a negative way. Right? So you don't want that. So you express it in the most positive way, which is you taking the lead with friends, could be that as well. Mars in the 11th house. So you be taking the lead to start up like maybe a workshop or anything. That's also Mars in Gemini in the 11th house. Or you're teaching your friends something. Or doing something with friends and being very active with friends, and that demands a lot of energy, and then you exude that in a very positive way. So you're doing a lot with friends. On another level, of course, Mars is sexuality, having sex with a friend. It can be that as well, you know, and that's a, you know, hopefully a very positive side. You know, it depends on the other parts of your horoscope, but that can be a very positive explanation of that. You getting a little bit more active with a friend. And the retrograde can imply that because of that, you're reassessing your friendship. It could be that as well. So yeah, sometimes it's very, you know, you have to take astrology as simple as you can, and it's mostly that occurs. But again, you could be traveling a lot with friends as well. You know, Mars in Gemini, doing short trips with friends. And these are, so if you are active with your friends and you're doing a lot and you're communicating and learning from each other, fantastic. Again, in a negative way, this is gossip, this is, and you can only exude your energy. I mean, you can't control what other people are doing. If other people are doing it, you recognize it immediately and you withdraw. You don't have to cut cords, but you withdraw, and that's gonna help you. but I think for a lot of you, it's also about new goals. It's definitely, if you have been, lacking some meaning. The 11th house, I also associate that with goals for the future and where you can put focus on and a meaning. It's definitely getting very active. And I kind of like it. I kind of like it for you, Leos. Virgos, super important transit, for you Virgos, especially if you've got planets around 25 degrees of Virgo and around 8 degrees of Virgo, you are going to feel it very much. But you see, it's like, almost every Virgo is going to feel this a lot. And this energy, Mars, will be in the highest point of your horoscope. So for those of you who have a career, this is definitely about their career. For those of you who don't have a career or who are not working and not intending to work, this is about your social status. This is about your public life. This is about how you want to be seen, how you want to profile yourself towards the world. And it's your contribution to the world, whatever that is, right? And or a parent. So let's break it down first. When you are working, this is definitely whether you work for a boss, that could be some struggles there that you have to stand up for yourself, or a boss that is very bossy. But you can do two things. Either you accept the bossy boss and you try to learn from it, or you do your own business. It's either one or the other, because they are very strong there with Mars. When Mars is in your 10th house, it shows quite a strong boss there. And who feels entitled that he or she is doing what they're doing. And so you want to accept that energy. Again, if there are some problems, and don't fall into the sneakiness, like you're doing passive aggressiveness, and it's going to backfire. Passive aggressive, like you're going to say, I'm going to stay ill at home. That is all that is what I mean, passive aggressive. It's going to backfire at the end. It's better to be honest than to say, okay, I have to accept this. Either I'm going to do my best when I'm at this job. It's not my company. I would do it like this and like this, but it's not my company. It pays the bills. I'm going to accept that. And, when I'm at home, I spend some time of looking for another job, whatever it is. You will do the best way you can with this energy. And when Mars goes direct in the midst of January, it can really mean that you get an upgrade, you get a promotion. When you have your own business, there is definitely possibility here to improve and to work on something new, and to reassess a lot of things, especially during the period of at the end of October and the midst of January. A lot of reassessing time of the new things that you start now. Like if you already are starting new things when it comes to your work, you will have to reassess it. But you Virgos are quite good at that, because you are ruled by Mercury and you have those retrogrades already many times, on a mental level. But this is about your action. So you can really, you dear Virgos, if you work for someone or you work for yourself and it's not going like you want it to be, you can put some extra effort into your work, and it, multiplication by 10 during the midst of January and onwards, if you put a lot of your own effort into it in a positive way, full of integrity. On another level, your social status could change here. So from being single to not being single, from being divorced, you could have a really sexy boss, for instance, with Mars there in the 10th house, sex at the office. I mean, it could be, not for all of you, of course, but it could be. With Mars there in the 10th house, it's an expression, of course, of boldness and liveliness at the work office. Okay, that could happen as well. And because of that, you have to shift and reassess your position. Could be that as well. For some of you, of course. And But for many of you as well, your social status could change. So because the midheaven is also how people see you, and it opposes your IC. So there could be like people who are single could go into a new relationship, or from the status of, yes, I want to divorce. This can be the year where the divorce happens, and so on. Of course, if you are working already with that. This is not something that comes out of the blue, by the way. Another thing is a parent. So there could be some power, you know, a parent has a lot of energy, you could say, or there is a change, or a parent has just a very fiery time in their life, and it has some sort of an effect on you. So your connection with a parent can be a little bit more, if you don't want it to be in the negative way of, you know, fighting, you do something with a parent that gives you energy, both of you, and you go for the same plan. And you know, again, Mars, when you use the energy of Mars, which is literally doing, that can be a very positive thing as well. But I really like it for you because it's about, you know, how you can improve your work and to make it so much more efficient than you. So a lot of Virgos, work is important for them because they want to be of service of some kind. And that is really something that you can look forward to. It does square to Neptune from the 7th house. So if you want to have a business partner, or maybe your partner that you have already, you know, don't expect too much from them, right? Don't expect too much from people, period. You know, don't expect them to be just like you, because that's going to be, you know, disappointing. Not because they're bad or anything, but just because you're a Virgo. And you are quite perfect there, almost. Close to perfection, you know that song? I love that song. Being a Virgo myself, I love that song. Close to perfection. Listen to that song. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, don't expect too much from people. Chill out a little bit, and you won't get disappointed then. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Or it could be that a spouse or a girlfriend, a boyfriend is not really liking the changes that you're doing on a work level. So there is a bit of, be aware that they can be a bit sneaky, or you could be a bit sneaky. Try to communicate in the open what you're all about and what you can do. You can't control another person. Librans, this is happening in your 9th house. And this is a very nice Mars retrograde for you. Why? Because it's a fellow air sign. So for you, it's quite positive there. It's not really that challenging for you. And it triggers your 9th house. So what is the 9th house? It's the house of travel. It's the house of publication. It's the house of your, it's a mental house, so of your belief system. So definitely a good time to go back and forwards to countries where you already have been, and to go backwards to them and be really, really active there. So if you say, oh no, Mars retrograde in the 9th and I'm traveling a lot and I don't want delays, no, you're inviting it. You say, okay, if there's going to be a delay, I'm going to make sure that I have a good book with me, and so on. And maybe that's exactly what you needed to do then. Right, so to change, to read a philosophical book, for instance, and to change your belief system in a way. You can really change your belief system with this Mars retrograde here. You could do a new study, or a study that you already did and that you are going to pick up again. It's splendid energy for that. Or a book that you're writing and you're going back and forwards, and splendid energy. So learning, teaching, traveling, all of these things. And with the retrograde, make sure that you use it in a good way, which is like improving what the steps you have taken during the direct mode, right, between now and the end of October. It could also mean the 9th house is also YouTube, a YouTube channel that you want to launch, very good energy, and reassess it during the end of October and the midst of January. Yeah, studying philosophy and exploring exploring your connection with the divine. Absolutely. It is, and you could say, but these are, you know, very mental stuff, but it's so important because that 9th house is such an enjoyable house if you improve that house, which you have an ability to do. Improving and changing your belief system in a more, you could say, appropriate way and in a fresh new way. Your whole life is going to benefit from that, you know. So seeing things in a different perspective. And of course, what helps us? Traveling, reading, and all these things. Doing cultural stuff, you know, and it does square up to Neptune in your 6th house. So that is your day-to-day routines. So that can make a little bit of an annoyance there. And so your work as well, your work could be that it doesn't go, you want to travel so much and it doesn't go with the work. You know, again, make sure that there is a healthy balance between these 2 houses and you will do fine. Scorpios, this is happening in your 8th house. I really, really love this for the Scorpios because most people, when they have Mars retrograde in the 8th house, they say, I don't want this. I don't want this. This is too heavy. This is too intense. That would be what most signs would say. It's too intense. But of course, your Scorpio, having the sun there, or the moon, or an ascendant, or like me, my ruler, I have my ruler in Scorpio and I have my Venus in Scorpio. So this is really our cup of tea. Because the 8th house is the house of life and death. It's the house of transformation. It's the house of something needs to go and you have to go through the pain and then you transform. But if you're not going to tackle it, you're not going to transform. So that's basically the 8th house. So on a deep psychological level, Mars in the 8th house, I've seen a lot of people when they have that, start studying the occult, whether it is astrology, whether it is, whatever it is, but something that is deepening their understanding of people and of themselves. So therefore, it's a very good time to do so. So studies and going deep, being interested in what the eye doesn't see, basically, and putting a lot of energy there. Putting a lot of energy in your own battle of your shadow. Absolutely. It's a bit like Mars in the 12th house. Although in the 8th, it has more to do with your personal battles and your fears that you have, and mostly they are imaginative. You know, imaginative fears, it's a good time to tackle this. And how you tackle this? Through the mind, because it's in Gemini. So if it is a little fear or a big fear, whatever, to really do it in those steps and do short things. Like when you fear, for instance, speaking in public, I'm just giving a stupid example here, or not stupid, but a simple example. For your work, you will have to do some public speaking and you're very scared of it. You know that you have to do it to get through that fear. That's very Mars in the 8th house. But it's going to be very much like, ooh, a mental thing to conquer. But you start with doing, for instance, practicing this and doing it for people that you know. You know, doing a speech for people that you know. And then you're doing it for 5 people. And then you're doing it for people in the neighborhood or some friends. And so on and so on. So you have that plan. And you're battling that. You're working on that. And you give yourself the time, because you've got like 6-7 months here to conquer one of your fears. It's definitely a positive transit to conquer one's fears. And Scorpios, this is actually an opportunity to strengthen yourself by being vulnerable. You know, that's what it's all about. And on another level, this can be a financial thing for sure. The 8th house is a financial house. The money that you share with other people, whether it is your spouse or whether it is an investment that you have. You know, it's the value of other people. It can be the money of your clients, right? The 2nd house from the 7th house. And with Mars there, it means a little bit more action there. So that could be a good thing, so that you're trying to improve that situation. Let's say you want a loan, or you have a loan and you want to revisit it, or you want to change some things to improve it, or you want to invest and you want to really get the most out of this. This is very good news here, but it will demand a lot of your attention, a lot of your work, a lot of investigation, a lot of mental work here, because it's in Gemini. But you also want to do it the right way, because it squares Neptune, right? It's squaring Neptune, so you really, in the 5th house, don't take any risk here, you know. I mean, avoid risk, let's put it that way. Avoid very risky business. It's not a time to do so with Mars squaring Neptune. But if it's, you know, about integrity, if you have your best interest, and if you don't have those selfish kind of desires, you cannot go wrong, right? Because here with Neptune in the 5th and Mars in the 8th, again with inheritances, there could be like a struggle going on here with children, or with, yeah, I mean, it can be a struggle because Mars goes backwards and forwards, and you have to, again, use your integrity. If you're not going to do that, it can backfire, and you can actually lose more than that was necessary. So you want to follow that integrity and do it as pure as you can, and you're going to be rewarded for that. Although it's not next month, but it will be after Mars goes direct. So I don't know what I'm doing here. But anyway, when Mars goes direct, which is after the midst of January of next year. Interesting energy. Sagittarians, this is in your 7th house. What is that all about? I'm smiling because I have a Sagittarius rising. So I look forward to this energy, because it means it's gonna lighten up your life for sure. This is important for Sagittarians, especially if you've got like planets around 8 degrees or 25 degrees. You will feel it the most. But again, I mean, that's approximately all the degrees. So what is this all about? 7th house is not just everyone. It's a social house, yes. But it's not your parents or your siblings or your friends. No, it is either your partner, so your lover, lover, I mean, it's the one that you have a committed relationship with on a romantic level. It can be also a business partner. It can be a very significant client that's going to play a big role during those 7 months. It can also be someone you are consulting, whether it is a therapist, an astrologer, a dentist, a doctor, so someone you consult. It can be that as well, or it can be that special person, right? Maybe a friend that is something more than that, that is coming into the picture now because they play a bigger role for you, because you are going to do something together one-on-one with them. And because this Saturn is also in your 3rd house, so that's also very helping you. So that's why I mentioned friends as well. There's not the friends that, how would I say, that could be one particular connection that stands out, and that is going to be that you are going to do a lot of things with Mars. Going to do a lot of things with. And I'll get back to that in a minute. So, and that could be really, really interesting and good for your growth. Let's put it that way. So it's not always just your, when you're in a relationship, your spouse, for instance. If you are single, this is definitely, use this energy, right? If you are single, this is absolutely an energy. Mars in the 7th house is spicy, right? It is very martial people, that also with people who are in a relationship, by the way. You are going to attract martial people, okay? So that's the first thing. Whether you are in a relationship or not, whether you have a business of your own or not, clients, business partners, romantic partners, they're going to be more martial, right? You want to use it in the good way. Of course, the negative way is that you're gonna bump heads with a significant other or a client and so on. We don't want that, do we? We are forewarned, forearmed. We're not going to use that energy in that negative way. But Mars in the 7th, definitely they are going to stand up a little bit more for themselves. Like I'm having this energy now, Mars entering my, it's bang on the descendant as I speak now. And I'm feeling it so strongly that the people around me, like clients and so on, they're not negative, not at all, but they're just more demanding my attention. You know, where's my reading? You know, and not that they have to wait that long, but that kind of energy. Mars is like, I want it yesterday. They are going to be a little bit more demanding. It's not a bad thing. It's how you deal with it. Of course, if you are going to say like, hey, you are going to express your Mars in the Mars like you have Mars in the 1st house, it's not going to be good. But if you're saying, I understand where they're coming from, but hey, cool down in a minute, I'm going to put a nice email and say, look, you're going to have your reading within a couple of days, and it's all good. You see what I mean? But expect and accept that people will be a bit more fiery around you and more demanding and more like, or a spouse, or can have just more a busy life, could be that as well. In a good way, it's doing a lot. Mars being very active with another person. It can be sexuality as well. You know, Mars in the 7th house is absolutely when you want to have more sex. When you're single, for instance, you're gonna attract those people for sure. And it's a mirror of you as well, right? So it could simply mean having more sex during that period. Why not? It's very literal. And but on another level, it can mean like you together with someone significant that is very important for you, that you're going to go for a certain goal, and it's very mental as well, you know, in Gemini. So you can go for the same goal, you can work on something. If you are in a relationship and you feel that you're going towards the clashing thing, try to find a project where both of you can work on. I mean, literally work on. Yes, on the mind level, you have to talk about it and so on. But also like literally doing actions, doing things like travel, short trips. You know, Gemini is the 3rd house, but it represents the 3rd house in Gemini. You do some short trips with someone that you love, and you put a lot of activities there. Can be as simple as that as well. So expect liveliness, right? And that's the positive side of Mars. It's a very social energy. It's an amazingly very social energy. It does square to Neptune in the 4th house, so there could be indeed some tensions at home. So make sure that you can balance that out, that there is a good balance between home and your partner, that you are as open as you can with that energy as well. And but yeah, it's really I'm looking forward to it. You know, some liveliness from other people can give you a lot of energy as well, and that is also a good thing, you know, because of yes, that fiery Mars planet in your 7th house. And of course, if you have a relationship and you want to improve your relationship, or you're single and you want to have a relationship, this is by you being very active, either with this other person or with a new person. So don't think that, oh, there's Mars retrograde, I get to know someone new, and Mars goes backwards, it's all bad. No, it's reassessing what most people do. When they encounter someone new, most people are going to have some thoughts about a person that are not correct, which is a normal thing because you don't know them. So enjoy the period and accept the period of retrograde during the end of the end of October and the midst of January, because it means a reassessing time. It can be for the positive as well. We always tend to think like, yeah, I thought that would be good and they're not so good, but it can be the other way around as well. Sometimes we do have our judgments already, that person can do some actions that you say, oh, I didn't know that, I was wrong, and it's for the better. You see, this is all possible. So be open towards how other people are going to step forward towards you. Give space to others so that they come to you in that fiery way. Give them the space. And of course, don't let people walk all over you. That of course, you have to stand up for yourself as well. But let them take the initiation and let them do the action. And interesting energy. Capricorns, this is happening in your 6th house. Now, again, for the Capricorns, not the most important thing in the world, but it is in the house of work, your routines, your day-to-day life, your health. So there's something that you can improve. There is something that could be going on there that you don't like that much. Probably it's one of those areas in your life, whether it is your health that you're saying, nah, it's not that good at the moment, or whether it is your job that you're saying, I could improve it. I've got some good news, you can. It's going to take time. And Capricorns, they're ruled by Saturn. They understand that they have to be consistent, that they have to work hard. So I think this will not be that bad for you, this energy. So for those of you who want a different job, this is good news, but this could mean that you, between the time now and the end of October, you start a new job, but then don't panic when at the end of October you are saying, what did I start here? Is this good? And no, you're doing the right thing. You're reassessing, and then up until the midst of January, you kind of implement something new or something different that is connected to that new job. So very interesting energy to shift that. And on another level, it's to improve your health. You could go with new things that you're doing. You might be doing like a certain workout or some things like a fitness plan or whatever, and then at the end of October saying, this is not sustainable. It's no big deal, but it's something different that you need to do. Maybe instead of fitnessing, you're going towards swimming, whatever it is, but you're still doing something for your health. You see what I mean? So all in all, very nice, straightforward energy for you. Straightforward, I mean easy to understand energy. And accept and go with that flow. It does square up to Neptune in your 3rd house, so be aware of communication, that the sneakiness, right? So when people are, again, doing sneaky towards you, it's their karma, right? It's your job to see it and to discern it and to do your best and to step aside when they do so, because you don't want to invite that energy. So you don't want to exude that energy either. You don't want to be sneaky in your communication with others. It's going to backfire, and definitely at work. Okay, Aquarians, this is in your 5th house. This is a nice Mars retrograde. I love it for you, Aquarians, who've got Saturn in your sign. And that Saturn is actually going to give you some stamina to keep on doing what you want to do when it comes to your heart chakra. This Mars is in Gemini, a fellow air sign, and I absolutely love it for you. For those of you who are thinking about starting your own business, starting a new project, something that has to do with kids, wanting to have kids or working on that, or being active with your kids, and or a kid that goes through a martial phase, so to speak, who's going to really stand up for themselves. Don't go and battle them, right? See it as a good thing. Don't see it as a personal thing. But of course, you as a parent don't have to say, oh, it's all good and well, but mind your ego. And it's because it squares up, of course, to Neptune there as well in your second house of self-worth and money. So it could be a bit of a struggle there with maybe a child that costs a lot of money, and you have to be very careful how you spend your money on that child, and again, following your integrity as much as you can. But for a lot of you, this has to do with romance. This has to do with how you do romance. This has to do with falling in love with a very martial figure there. So someone who's very feisty, sexual, Mars in the 5th house. A lot of sex. It could absolutely improve your sex life. When you say, oh, my sex life is non-existent, this could change. And you start with that, and then the Mars retrograde is like, I want to reassess. I want to change a couple of things here. And but it can also mean simply a new romance, and so that you start a new romance, and that it is very fiery. It's very sexual here, but also mental, because it's in Gemini. So it's like you get... you could say you get triggered because they are so clever, right? And but they are also very masculine. Whether you are a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. There's a lot of masculine energy, a lot of sexual energy here, and witty, fun energy. I would say enjoy it. If you're not looking for love, at least you can have a very enjoyable time with spending a lot of time. Fun time with your hobbies, with maybe going back to an old hobby when the retrograde is going on, or going for your own project and your own business. I've seen that also when Mars is retrograde in the 5th house. It can mean that people start their own businesses, and the back and forwards is just a time of reassessing and making sure that when Mars goes direct around the midst of January, that you can go full on with the new business. So yeah, definitely. Oh, I love that energy for you guys, guys and girls. I really love it. It's a very heart chakra kind of energy. It's like the universe giving you that gift of enjoy yourself. Dear Aquarians, yes, you've got Saturn in your sign, but enjoy yourself meanwhile, and you've got the wherewithal to do this. And yeah, a project for work, it could be that as well, that it takes a lot of time, those 7 months to launch a project. You will have a lot of stamina to keep this going. Again, be aware of the Neptunian factor in your 2nd house, so don't lose too much of your money, and be wise with that to implement it. Last but not least, Pisceans, very important Mars retrograde, especially when you've got Pisces planets around 8 degrees and around 25 degrees, but actually all Pisceans will feel it because this is happening in the 4th house, so the lowest point of your horoscope, which is an emotional house, which is the house of your well-being. Now again, Mars in the 4th house is not the easiest energy, and definitely not when it squares up to Neptune in your sign. So you have to be careful here of how you express yourself to others, and especially relatives and your family, or your parents, and because this energy with Mars in the 4th can indicate a move. So if you're planning of selling a house, buying a house, this is good energy. But again, this is like you do some actions yourself. You don't sit and wait, but you already get very active. You work with officers who can sell houses or whatever, or you're cleaning up at home. Mars in the 4th house. All that energy that goes forwards. But then in the timing of the retrograde, don't panic. When things are like you're reassessing, is this a good idea, this or that? Just accept that energy, that when the midst of January, Mars goes direct again, and that means that off you go with the new home or with the new plan at home. It could also mean, if you're saying I'm not going to sell my house or that's not my story, it could also mean working from home. That you're implementing something that you start doing it between now and the end of October, And then the time of October, midst of January, you are reassessing, is this a good thing? Me working from home so much, or applying this, and so on. Definitely a good thing to work from home, to do a lot of activities at home, but you want it to be in a positive way. In a negative way, this is quarrels with your loved ones, right? Because the fourth house is your home, and it's like having that tension energy there. So you want to use it in a good energy, which is literally being active at home, removing the furniture, for instance, is being active at home. And so that's definitely a good thing. On another level, it is apparent, right? So Mars in the fourth house, that apparent is a bit more martial towards you, which is could clash a little bit more. On a positive level, you could do something with a parent, and that is just a bit more active and lively. And because Mars, it can be on your IC opposing your MC, the work-home balance, to change that, this is good energy to do so as well. And on last but not least level, the fourth house is your emotional well-being. So you could be yourself, very active to parent yourself in a way, to give yourself more security, not reaching out to others, but to give it yourself. And it's an energetic thing. It's feeling at home with yourself, basically. So emotional well-being can be key for you. How you nurture yourself, how you Pisceans, they sometimes forget themselves. And yes, there is a beauty in the way that you are very unconditional in how you love others, and you give and you give and you give. That's all good and well, as long as you are not neglecting yourself. And this can be a wake-up call for you with this Mars in the fourth house, that you are going to pay a little bit more attention towards your own needs. But definitely with Mars in the fourth house, rebuilding your house and doing a lot of work at the house, very, very good energy. Having said that, this was a rather long video, but you say that you don't mind by me doing long videos. I hope it was helpful. I would say enjoy this Mars retrograde. Thanks again for watching. Thank you for all your comments and everything, the readings and all of that. I do appreciate it a lot, and see you next time. Bye-bye.